Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The New York Times reported Thursday the Saudis are considering blaming a top advisor to Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS, for the killing of the Saudi journalist, Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi. The Times says the Saudis are claiming General Ahmed al-Asiri killed Khashoggi after MBS ordered him to capture the journalist for an interrogation. Al-Asiri previously served as the spokesman for the U.S.-backed Saudi-led coalition in Yemen. Turkish officials say Khashoggi was tortured and murdered by a squad of 15 Saudi hitmen shortly after entering the Saudi consulate in Istanbul October 2nd. Video and audio recordings from inside the consulate reportedly show Khashoggi was beaten, tortured, dismembered, beheaded, with his fingers cut off. 4 of the men implicated in Khashoggi's death are reportedly linked to MBS's security detail. After weeks of defending Saudi Arabia, President Trump said Thursday he now believes Khashoggi is dead and acknowledged allegations against the Saudis.
Do you believe Jamal Khashoggi is dead?
It certainly looks that way to me. It's very sad. It certainly looks that way.
What are you considering for possible consequences for Saudi based on those?
Well, it'll have to be very severe. I mean, it's bad stuff, but we'll see what happens.
The New York Times reports Trump's son-in-law and senior advisor Jared Kushner has advised President Trump to defend the Crown Prince despite mounting evidence against Saudi Arabia. The United States received a $100 million payment from Saudi Arabia on Tuesday, the same day Secretary of State Mike Pompeo met with the Crown Prince and his father, King Salman, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. One U.S. official said, quote, "The timing of this is no coincidence." Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said Thursday he will not attend next week's Future Investment Initiative Summit in Saudi Arabia. Dozens of others have also pulled out of the event, including the heads of the World Bank and the IMF, top executives from J.P. Morgan Chase, Uber, Ford, BlackRock, Blackstone, and the New York Times, and every other major Western news media organization. Meanwhile, also in Turkey, it is believed that there was a car accident and one of the 15 hitmen was killed. We'll have more on the latest on Jamal Khashoggi after headlines. At a rally in Montana Thursday, President Trump praised Montana Congressmember Greg Gianforte for physically assaulting a reporter.
Greg is smart. And by the way, never wrestle him. You understand that? Never. Any guy that can do a body slam, he's my kind of...
Last year, Gianforte body slammed The Guardian reporter Ben Jacobs after he asked Gianforte a question about the Republicans' health care proposal. This is the audio Jacobs captured of Gianforte's attack on him.
We'll talk to you about that later.
Yeah, but there's not going to be time. I'm just curious if you
Okay,
have
speak
right
with
now.
Shane, please.
But you don't.
Sick and tired of you guys. The last guy that came here, you did the same thing. Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. The last guy did the same thing. You were the Guardian?
Yes, and you just broke my glasses.
The last guy did the same damn thing.
You just body slammed me and broke my glasses.
Get the hell out of here.
If you'd like me to get the hell out of here, I'd also like to call the police.
Gianforte was elected to Congress, but he ultimately pled guilty to assaulting Jacobs. After Trump praised Gianforte at the rally Thursday night, The Guardian U.S. editor John Mulholland said, in the aftermath of the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, it runs the risk of inviting other assaults on journalists, both here and across the world, where they often face far greater threats. We hope decent people will denounce these comments and that the president will see fit to apologize for them, unquote. During the rally, Trump also once again attacked Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren over her recent DNA test claiming her Native American ancestry.
You know, the one good thing about her test is that there was so little. She had less than the average American. I used to say, I have more Indian blood in me than she does, and I have none. I used to say that.
To see our full coverage of Elizabeth Warren's DNA test, go to democracynow.org. A new investigation by WNYC and ProPublica reveals the Trump family regularly engaged in patterns of deceptive practices in their real estate deals around the world. The report finds President Trump and his daughter Ivanka, now a senior advisor, regularly misled investors and buyers by inflating property sales numbers, giving a false sense of the viability of the projects. This comes as the Trump name was removed from yet another New York City building on Thursday after residents complained of security risks and reduced property values associated with the Trump name. Back in Washington, D.C., newly released official emails show President Trump was more involved than previously thought in preventing the planned move of the FBI headquarters out of Washington to the D.C. suburbs. Many speculate the move was designed to benefit Trump's namesake hotel, which is located 1 block away from the FBI's current headquarters. The Trump International Hotel has been the subject of a high-profile lawsuit charging Trump profits from the hotel and that foreign dignitaries may choose to stay there to curry favor with the president, a possible violation of the Emoluments Clause in the Constitution. If the FBI were to move out of Washington, D.C., that property could be developed as another hotel just about a block away from Trump's hotel. In immigration news, a migrant caravan of about 4,000 Hondurans is continuing its journey toward the U.S. border as the migrants flee rampant violence and economic deprivation. Trump has lashed out against the caravan on Twitter, attacking at turns Democrats, his Central American counterparts, and the migrants. Trump has also threatened to cut foreign aid to Central American countries, nullify the new U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade deal if Mexico doesn't stop the migrants and even deploy troops to close the border. The United States faced widespread criticism last year for backing the re-election of Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez despite allegations of widespread election fraud. In Brazil, the far-right front-running presidential candidate, Jair Bolsonaro, is being accused of profiting from a misinformation campaign smearing his opponent, Fernando Haddad. Haddad's leftist Workers' Party is calling for an investigation into the campaign allegedly funded by pro-Bolsonaro entrepreneurs using the popular social networking platform WhatsApp. Meanwhile, a campaign video released by Haddad is drawing attention to the link between Bolsonaro and President Trump's former chief strategist, Steve Bannon.
Steve Bannon is accused of sabotaging democratic regimes around the world. He uses fake news to spread fear and violence to win elections. Bannon is a specialist in spreading terror around the world. Bolsonaro has spent the last 30 years doing this in Brazil.
Haddad and Bolsonaro are set to face off in the final round of Brazil's elections, October 28th. In Afghanistan, the Taliban is claiming responsibility for an attack that killed top Afghan General Abdul Razik, along with a top intelligence chief in the southern province of Kandahar. Top U.S. General Scott Miller was also a target of the attack, but survived uninjured. General Razik was seen by U.S. forces as essential in maintaining a level of stability in Kandahar. Razik has also been accused of corruption, drug smuggling, and major human rights abuses, including killings and torture. The killings have prompted the delay of an upcoming parliamentary vote in Kandahar. Israel's Supreme Court has overturned U.S. student Lara Al-Qassem's deportation order, granting her the right to stay and study in Israel. Al-Qassem, who is of Palestinian descent, was held at Israel's Ben Gurion airport for over 2 weeks after arriving in Israel to start a master's program. Israel said it had initially denied her entry over her past support for the BDS movement, that's Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions, an international Palestinian solidarity campaign. In 2017, Israel passed a law denying entry to foreign nationals who support any kind of boycott against Israel. The U.S. Justice Department has opened an investigation into the Catholic Diocese in Pennsylvania involved in the cover-up of widespread systematic child sexual abuse among its clergy, the first statewide federal investigation of its kind. The Justice Department is also investigating the diocese in Buffalo, New York. The investigations come after a Pennsylvania grand jury report revealed more than 300 Catholic priests sexually abused over 1,000 children and possibly thousands dozens more over a span of 7 decades. The New York Times is reporting a prominent former doctor at Rockefeller University Hospital likely sexually abused many of his former patients, mostly young and teenage boys who sought treatment for growth problems. Dr. Reginald Archibald worked at the hospital from the 40s to 1980, during which time he reportedly forced patients to masturbate in front of him, touched them in a sexual manner, and took pictures of them naked. He died in 2007. Meanwhile, in California, 93 more women have accused University of Southern California gynecologist Dr. George Tyndall of sexual abuse, bringing the number of his accusers to about 150. Survivors say Dr. Tyndall raped or forcibly touched them and made racist and misogynistic comments while he sexually abused them. In Florida, 3 former police officers pleaded guilty in connection with the framing of innocent black men in Biscayne Park. The officers admitted to making false arrests as part of a scheme orchestrated by former police chief Raimundo Adesiano to benefit his department's crimes record. Adesiano pled guilty last month to depriving 3 innocent black men of their civil rights by framing them. A white man who shot 3 black men as they were evacuating Hurricane Katrina ravaged New Orleans has pleaded guilty to a hate crime, admitting he shot the men because of their race. Roland Bourgeois reportedly told his neighbor, "Anything coming up this street darker than a brown paper bag is getting shot." The case is one of several high-profile racism-fueled crimes that took place in the aftermath of the 2005 hurricane. In 2016, 4 former New Orleans police officers pled guilty to shooting 6 unarmed black civilians on the Danziger Bridge days after Hurricane Katrina, killing 2 and wounding 4 others. And in Dallas, Texas, 2 pipeline protesters were arrested Thursday after disrupting an Energy Transfer Partners shareholders meeting. Indigenous rights activists Wania Locke and Cherry Foytlin faced disorderly conduct charges after interrupting speakers at a meeting about the 163-mile Bayou Bridge pipeline. Foytlin recorded the protest on Facebook Live.
They have injured children. They have caused issues, and I know that they're going to act like they're the innocent ones, but they're not.
They are contaminated.
They're not.
2 million people
They're not
drinking water
innocent
every single day.
They're not, and you don't get to do this. You don't get to continue to bother people and injure people and hurt people. You don't get to do that, right? Just because you're rich.
Cherry Foytlin appears to be tackled as she continues to speak. Dozens of protesters also gathered outside the hotel to protest Energy Transfer Partners and its CEO, Kelsey Warren. And a correction, the Turkish press is reporting that one of the 15 Saudi men involved in Jamal Khashoggi's murder has died in a car accident. The accident occurred in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, not in Turkey. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.